We're on a road trip through Nevada to Boulder City, and we're going to find the 5 tunnels that were built for the Hoover Dam project. These were crucial in transporting workers and materials, and they were constructed through the Black Canyon. And these tunnels, each about 300 feet long, provided a vital access to the dam site. They allowed the delivery of supplies, cement, equipment, and also transported workers in and out of the remote areas. These tunnels were essential in maintaining the construction flow, helping to complete the dam in just 5 years, despite the challenging desert conditions.
Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. Today, we are at Boulder City. You'll see behind me Lake Mead. We are headed on the train tunnel trail, where there's some old historic train tunnels from the 1930s. When the dam was constructed, they used these trains to supply all of the construction needs to complete the dam. Come along and join the adventure. Now, when we came here to park, there's an area that is specifically for the trail. But my suggestion is, if you ever get to this location, to pull in and park at the visitor center. One of the park rangers told us to do that because the parking lot was full. And that parking lot wasn't even half full when we got here at the visitor center, but the one specifically for the trail was packed. Walking up the trail, first thing you come to is this big metal gate. Extreme conditions. Stop. Do not hike June through September. Heat kills. Hey, it's a good thing we're here in February. And so are quite a few other people. So this trail really provided away from Boulder City, where people stayed. Boulder City was the mecca for the people who worked in transportation. And that railroad ran all the way from Boulder City all the way up to these tunnels and to the dam through these tunnels to be able to get those supplies up here. And so far, this trail is packed. People running and jogging and exercising, and other people out just sightseeing. We're coming up on the second placard here that's kind of a lookout here on the trail. A network of railroads. It says you were walking along one of the segments of a 30-mile network of railroads built in 1931 specifically to haul material and construct Hoover Dam. This line was part of the U.S. government railroad, and it ran from Boulder City down to Hemingway Wash, to a concrete mixing plant on the rim of Black Canyon. The trains, they ran 24 hours a day up and down this track to provide that material to complete that dam. You can see the way they carved it through the rock. Not a tunnel yet. Well, they definitely had to blast their way through here to get these train tracks going. And the further we go, the more people. This is a fairly busy location. So right there, those big chunks of cement are concrete plugs, and they were using the powerhouse to plug up the holes for the flow of water until some of the construction was done. The sign was really faded, so I couldn't really read it that well, but that's what it looked like it said. So these were concrete plugs that were designed for inside the powerhouse. All right, we're coming up on another placard here, and these are called the Ringed Mountains. Out in the distance, you can see all of them are, it says ringed by mountains, I should say. The vantage point provides an excellent view of many of the mountains and points of interest in the desert around Lake Mead. Metamorphic rock, sedimentary rocks, or volcano, lavas, and basalt that tells the story of the landscape. So this area says it's developed over the last 1.5 billion years. And the muddy mountains in the distance are composed of limestones that formed in a marine environment. And there again is all the boat ramps down below. But that water was way up. You can see it one time right in that area. Now it's way out. I heard they had to move some of those boat ramps and and docks out further because a lot of those boats were getting dry docked. All right, we're gonna come up on the first set of tunnels. Nice and shaded and cool here. It must change like 15 degrees when you're in the shade. So these tunnels are coming right up. It looks like one after another. Let's get a little closer. Somebody's not happy on the trail. Kind of a long walk for kids, but it's flat. There's really not much elevation to it at all. So if I encourage anybody, if they get the chance to come out here and do this tunnel walk, to do it, because it's you can see the trail in front of me. It's well taken care of. But I imagine the heat, like they say, they shut it down in the summertime because you would cook along these dark rocks with the sun shining in the middle of the summer. That is extremely tall. That's got to be over 20 feet in height. And one of the tunnels I saw looks like it still has the iron around the inside. I think it's the other side of this tunnel. They're digging the tunnels. Kind of bright there. It says debilitating 100 Fahrenheit heat. Hard volcanic rock, pounding jackhammers, falling rocks, swirling clouds of dust and sand. The men boring and digging the 5 tunnels in this ridge must have wondered why they ever left their hometowns. And I imagine that's probably true. These walls are so jagged. It reminds me of the belly of the dragon, the way it looks. I can tell you these tunnels are a minimum of 30 feet tall. You can imagine a locomotive coming through here and all of the steam and from the engines roaring through here, coming through the tunnels. And right here, you'll see the ribbing at this end, all made out of metal for support. The light's a little bit in the way. There it is. Actually, it looked like it was steel. It's huge, huge timber. What are those, like 10 by 10s? And they go up and the whole roof is wood as well. That's fascinating. For some reason, from a distance, it looks just like iron or metal. So every time we come to a location, like this, it has so much history of something they built back in the early 1900s, sometimes the 1800s. It just fascinates me to think at one time, all the work that went into building this tunnel to get that material to the dam and all the people to the dam, and what we can do nowadays with helicopters and dropping people in and carrying material. This is so primitive. They spent years just to develop the railway and the tunnels to get the material and people there, and then all the years to build it. I think we could probably do something in half the time now in half the labor. This is so labor intensive. Those tunnels are massive. Timbered tunnels. So the ceiling in tunnel 2, the tunnels are usually large, 18 feet wide, 27 feet high. So trains could carry huge pieces of pipe and construction equipment. And there may or may not be a Mexican free trail bed in there. So it says in 1990 that a fire actually destroyed the timbers in the tunnel. So it had a tunnel fire. So the tunnel fire destroyed all the timber that was in here. And again, at the other end of this one, there are timbers that are still holding up the entranceway, but this is huge. I don't know what that is up there, if that's iron or pieces of pipe or something coming through, if they're like a stalactite or something that's hanging down, but it almost looks like metal that they reinforced it with.
And anybody with children hang out with.
So this tunnel is curved, which is very interesting because the other one was perfectly straight, so they had to curve this one to go through here. Amazing how they would do that. It was just blasting and jackhammering away at all this rock. There's like a little gate at the other end of this one. When you're in a tunnel like this, it's kind of deceiving as to how far it is because you just see the light at the other end of the tunnel. That's, oh well, light at the end of the tunnel, I get it. But it's true. But it seems further away, or I should say closer than it is. So it's always further away than what you think with that light coming in at the other side. This is like a container put through here to walk under this wood. Maybe it was going to fall down or something. They put it here for our protection. That is the archway. That wood up there looks a little newer than the actual timbers. Walking through a container. So right below us would have been an area known as Ragtown. Hard times in the desert, it says. See pictures of it right there with the old Model Ts. If we would have stood here and looked in the early 1930s, we would have looked down on the wooden cabins, tattered with tents and cardboard dwellings of Ragtown. So they were just makeshift structures, and they housed hundreds of families that came here during the Depression for work on Hoover Dam. I imagine it says here the conditions were extremely primitive. Outhouses, no running water, no electricity. But it would, right down there on that location is where that would have been. Right in this, I guess, gully that runs down from the train. Right down there. Good old Ragtown. All right, so we went through 2 tunnels. And they were good sized tunnels, but I'm hoping that the next one, number 3 here, is a little longer, or there's a longer tunnel to go in. They looked a little shorter than they were, but there still weren't very big tunnels as far as length. They're huge in height and width. 18 wide, 27 feet tall. And this next one that's coming up looks like it's that way too, but I think it's going to be a longer tunnel, and that'll be a lot of fun. This looks like the 3rd tunnel that we've came across. And this one looks almost exactly like the others. This one's straight, there's no curve to it. And again, at the other end, it has a container to walk out of, probably to protect you from some of the debris that may be falling off some of that. And these are pretty old, from the 30s. And it sure is nice to get in there. It's a lot cooler inside. You can see they've reinforced up here to keep rocks from falling. Or that reinforcement's been there for years. All the pieces of iron and heavy bolts coming out. That's really smooth. Look how smooth this one is. See that? It's like they chiseled off a big piece of rock there. Everything else is jagged. That's really weird. People have carved their names in there. I wonder if any of the old railroad workers or construction crews put their names in there. You wouldn't be able to make them out. There's so many now. This tunnel was a little longer and straight. These containers are a great idea, actually. If there's falling rock, I mean, you get to preserve the tour for safety. All that wood up there again. You can be safe by walking in here, and if anything falls, it'll probably be pretty loud, probably ring your ears for a while, but at least you wouldn't get a bump on the head. Yeah, this is definitely a shorter tunnel. This is number 4 that we've come across, and it said there's 5, so we'll see how that works, but number 4 coming up. You can see what they've done to stop rock from falling, so they cemented it smooth. It's a great idea. It still looks like, you know, the rock, but you cement that in to stop the debris from falling. So it was like last year is when they started talking about Lake Mead and the water being down. They said it was almost dead pool, which means it's below the level in which they can get water out. You can see the water lines right in there. But a lot of the water receding uncovered a lot of things, as you probably know or you've seen videos about, but they had barrels that they found with bodies in them, and boats and just all kind of things that were found on some of the shorelines around the lake. So all those light colored areas are areas where the water used to be, and more land was exposed than ever, you know, for years. So they found stuff that was just buried in the water. I'm surprised at how many boats and things that were sunk out there that they found, but there's a lot of videos about that. But that water's definitely low. All right, so looking down here, you'll see on the trails when you walk around over here, there's some trails, but there's some of the old railroad timbers down there. Probably from the line that was here when they dug this up. A lot of it down there. And a few railroad ties over here as well. So those are probably original that they just threw over the side when they put this trail in and filled these holes with the debris. All right, so tunnel 5 coming up. Now so far it's been an amazing walk up here, really nice and smooth, and seeing these old historic tunnels to help build that dam. But maybe this one's longer. The other ones were kind of short. I was hoping for a very long tunnel. So we'll see what this one brings. I have no idea. Just by looking at this one, it looks a little darker inside, which maybe that means that it's a little longer or it twists. So some of the light's not coming through. It's kind of fun and exciting to explore these. Oh yeah, you can tell. You can't see any light on this one, so it's gonna turn. Oh yeah, I can see light. So it doesn't go that far, but it definitely has a sharper turn to it. See what they've done in the whole entrance. They smooth this out with cement to stop little rocks and things to fall from the wall for safety, which is awesome, because if they wouldn't have done that, it'd probably cave in or collapse in areas. This tunnel seems like it's a little wider, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a definite, this is the sharpest turn so far.
Maybe the longest.
Yeah, it is the longest. You're right, it is definitely longer. Well, I can see from here, when you get out of this tunnel, it looks like there's a shaded area or a rest area about another 200 yards at the end of this one, where people are sitting and kind of having lunch or whatever. And there's some other buildings out there as well, but this is the end of the last tunnel. I'm glad I wasn't here for that. So this trail ended up about 2.7 miles out and then 2.7 miles back. 5 tunnels. And I'll tell you, it's a lot shorter on the way back than it was going. It seems like it's about a quarter of the time, because it's always that way. It seems like when you're hiking or walking, even on a trip in a vehicle, the way there seems like a while, and the way back seems a little faster. So on the way back, you can really see the construction of the wood and the way they've stacked it up there to kind of support the rocks, and why they've put this container here to protect you. And they just stacked like you would in a mine shaft, I guess, to support that rock from coming down. Didn't see that going through it. On the way back, you see things that you didn't see on the way in.
They say that around these tunnels and in these rocky hills that there's a lot of rams in this area, but we didn't see any here today. So we're going to go on over to Hemingway Park. Oh, and here it is. So these rams live right here. Now, they actually have a cam online, so you can go to Hemingway Park and watch the ram cam. They're beautiful creatures right here in the grass. Let's head on over to Boulder City proper. We love this location. Great things to do here, a lot of craft beer and breweries, and some fantastic food finding here in Boulder City, not to mention all of the artwork. So we headed right on over to Zombie Brewery right here on the corner on Main Street, and this was a really nice location. Super nice people here. Get some burgers and brew, and there is the logo for the Zombie. And there, of course, is their signature IPA beer. Of course, you had to have that. Then after you have a beer, you have to go over to Boulder City Co. store and go to the grind to get yourself a coffee and a pastry. All these things are right downtown. And we had a really good time and enjoyed Boulder City a lot and all of the historic areas around here, especially all the information and findings for the Hoover Dam in Lake Mead. So Boulder, a few statues. One of these is kind of a statue of a woman. It says that women really brought what was necessary to Boulder City, with shopping and making rugs and things, and kind of brought it to a homey kind of a town compared to what it was, just full of miners and construction workers. And right over there is a statue of construction workers we're going to share with you here in a minute. Here it is. The statue of a couple of workers kind of smiling and taking a break with their canteen and their boots off. And this is all called the Puddler's Break. These are the people that are taking a break from working on the dam. So these gentlemen taking a break are actually considered to be the puddlers. And the puddlers use their shovels to work in the cement to make sure there was no air bubbles or imperfections in the concrete. We've got some great statues here in Boulder. And what a fun place to be. The food here was fantastic. And the beer wasn't bad either. A great break after that long walk looking at those tunnels. Well, this once small government town, built in the early 1930s to help build and supply the dam, has now become quite the bustling location, full of tourism and great food. The Big Kahuna tells all. There he is. He wants to tell you your future. Only $1. The Big Kahuna. A lot of artwork, a lot of sculptures here in Boulder. This one is called A Gift from the Gods. It's like a giant feather. Well, that's going to do it for today. And until our next adventure, goodbye from Weekend Escapades in the old railroad tunnels here in Boulder City that helped build an amazing dam. We'll see you in the next one. The process of industrialization has evolved significantly from the 1930s to today. In the 1930s, manufacturing was very labor intensive. Leave your comments below and let me know what you think the people of the 1930s would think of what this town has become today. From a simple government construction town to this beautiful area that now provides tourists with everything they need.